Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I keep you up to date with everything happening in the game industry, and I'm looking forward to that Inside Xbox episode today. I am recording this video before it gets posted, but I'm curious to what kind of format they use here, as it does seem a little bit more condensed than they usually do, sitting at 40 minutes long, and yeah, I'm definitely going to be paying attention to that because we got some big news today concerning Xbox and E3, and we'll get to that here in just a second. As usual though, we do have a lot more to talk about, including some new PlayStation Now games, and there is a really big one here, though PlayStation's policies are still killing PlayStation Now. And on top of that, we got a weird story about some Crytek engineer kind of flip-flopping around about the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, so stay tuned for all of that. First though, let's talk about this Inside Xbox episode real quick because, as I noted before, there are some pretty major news surrounding Xbox right now because ESA has officially canceled E3 for the year of 2020. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, but at the time it hadn't been confirmed yet. But yes, E3 will not even be doing a digital distribution of E3 this year. Instead, it looks like IGN will be taking over with their summer of games that will be airing sometime this June. We don't have an official release date just yet, but a lot of third parties have already partnered up with them. However, Xbox is still not on that list, and hey, maybe they do decide to partner up with IGN as well, or they could possibly just end up doing their own digital event. If they do that, then I suspect we will be seeing some kind of Inside Xbox, but I think it will likely be under a different format than what we're used to. And do remember that I have not actually seen the Inside Xbox that is airing tonight, but even that is 40 minutes, which definitely seems like a more condensed version, so I do wonder if they will give us a hint at how this format will work tonight. Furthermore, even if Xbox does something completely different at E3, it does appear that Inside Xbox will be more important than ever before because Microsoft announced that all Xbox events will be digital until July of 2021. That means Inside Xbox could be their main way of spreading news for the next year, and of course this is a very pivotal year. I mean, we do have the Series X right around the corner, and on top of that, it looks like Xbox will be skipping E3 in 2021 as well because ESA just announced that E3 will be back for June 15th to the 17th in 2021. Of course, Xbox will be doing all digital, so it does look like Xbox will not be there either unless E3 is completely different and they do some kind of digital event altogether. Even then though, if Team Xbox starts to nail down this Inside Xbox stuff, they may not need to partner up with ESA at all going forward, so I guess we'll have to see how it all plays out, but it's starting to look like the beginning of the end for E3. Moving on though, and I want to stay on topic of Xbox for just a moment because some Crytek engineer Ali Salih is kind of flip-flopping around about development for the Series X and the PlayStation 5. It kind of reminds me of Michael Scott from The Office talking about his vasectomy, snip snap, but yeah, so apparently some Crytek engineer the other day in some interview was claiming that the Xbox Series X was more powerful than the PlayStation 5, which we already know that, but the PlayStation 5 was easier to develop for than the Series X, which was a really odd statement to make at the time because this engineer had never worked on either the PlayStation 5 or the Series X dev kit. At least I know he hadn't worked on the Series X dev kit because Phil Spencer just noted last week that third parties haven't received dev kits yet, so how is this Crytek engineer even making this claim? And he also didn't mention anything like DirectX 12 Ultimate for the Series X, and the whole thing just seemed really off at the time, and there's just something weird about this claim. Well, that's the thing, because apparently the whole interview just fell off the map. I mean, it has been taken down completely and swept under the rug like it just never happened in the first place. In other words, it has been redacted, and I think that's because some of the higher-ups in Crytek was probably not too happy with their engineer for saying something like this. It comes off as looking very unprofessional, as again, Crytek doesn't even have a dev kit for the Series X, and Crytek isn't going to want to get on Xbox's bad side either. I mean, you never want to spread false information or become a company that is not reputable. It's one thing to make this claim if you've actually developed for both consoles, but we know that's not true, so why say this at all? It's just not a good look for this engineer, and there is actually a rumor that this engineer was unfortunately fired over this because right after the story was redacted, Crytek put up a job listing for a rendering engineer, which is possibly this guy's job. I hope that's not true and he didn't get fired, but that job listing does actually exist, so it is possible they may have parted ways over something like this. Again, you just cannot spread that type of information, and hopefully he learned from his mistakes. I do hope he wasn't fired, but yeah, it's an odd little story to say the least. Now, Sony also announced the new PlayStation Now lineup for this month, and that will be Just Cause 4, Golf Club 2019, and Spider-Man, which is the most exciting one here. I love that game personally. Insomniac truly did a phenomenal job with Spider-Man, but as usual with PlayStation Now, you have to read the fine print, and that is because Spider-Man will only be available in PlayStation Now until July 7th, so 3 months per usual. Honestly, I'm happy that Sony is trying to improve PlayStation Now, and it is much better than it was last year during the same time. However, I just do not understand Sony's policies here. I think if they really wanted to make PlayStation Now a great service, then they need to stop with this 1 foot in and 1 foot out type of strategy. They need to just dive in and put these games into PlayStation Now indefinitely. So far, we have seen God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, and now Spider-Man in PlayStation Now, but each time, it's only for 3 months. Sony does own these games, and they should remain in PlayStation Now indefinitely. If they were to do that, PlayStation Now would be so much better, and they would be getting more subscriptions. I just feel like Sony is holding the service back from being better than what it's capable of. And how many people are actually still purchasing these games? Would it not be better to just use these games that are a bit older now and use them to entice fans into subscribing into PlayStation Now? I believe that these subscriptions like Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Now are going to be incredibly important for next generation consoles, so I think Sony needs to just take the hit here and go all in on PlayStation Now. That's just my opinion, but either way, if you do want to try Spider-Man out on PlayStation Now, you better go check it out for the next 3 months. And speaking of PlayStation, you can now refund both The Last of Us Part 2 as well as Ironman VR if you pre-ordered them digitally. This is due to the delay for both of these games, so if you would rather use that money towards another game, like let's say Final Fantasy VII Remake or Resident Evil 3, you can absolutely do that. Of course, both of these games will arrive on PlayStation at some point, but yes, you can still get a refund and just use that money towards something else for the time being if that's something you want to do. And hey, while we're talking about some things you can do right now, the Valorant closed beta has officially started today, and as we talked about on the channel yesterday, you must have a Twitch and Riot Games account linked together and watch highlighted Valorant streams on Twitch to get a chance to play this beta. The cool thing here though is how many people are watching these Twitch streams right now, and last time I checked it had reached 1.4 million people watching live, which is crazy for a new IP. This just goes to show you the excitement for this game, which to me really isn't really all that surprising. I mean, both Overwatch and Counter-Strike are huge games, and Valorant looks like a mix between those two, and then the fact it's being made by Riot Games, the League of Legends developer, there was never a doubt in my mind personally that this game wouldn't be huge as well. League of Legends has always been really big, so they have that fan base already, and then you try to poach some of the Overwatch and Counter-Strike fan base too. So, I mean, yeah. But again, I know it's an odd strategy in how they're getting fans to sign up for this closed beta, but it really seems to be working so far, and the game looks pretty good. So, I mean, I'm going to have to go try to get this game myself, or at least into the beta. I am a really big Overwatch fan, so I want to test it out for myself. I need to see how this game works firsthand. Oh, and something that I forgot to mention yesterday, but Platinum Games have revealed they still have one more game announcement. They, of course, have been teasing all year that they will be revealing 4 announcements, but on April Fool's Day, they posted the 4th and final announcement as an April Fool's joke. Well, now it looks like that in itself was just a joke, and they still do have a 4th announcement after all to make, though they're calling it their 5th. Again, I really don't like April Fool's Day, but I am a big fan of Platinum Games though, so I'm curious to what it is exactly. Could it be another new game, or could they be working on an existing IP? We now know Nier Replicant is being worked on by a different developer, so it can't be that. I've heard people throwing the game Okami around quite a bit, but Capcom does own that game, so if that were to happen, it would need to be a partnership. I mean, I'd still love to see it, but just keep that in mind. I mean, hopefully we won't have to wait too long for this final announcement, but let me know, what would you like to see from Platinum Games? Let me know in the comments below. Now, there are a few game-related announcements too. First up, we have one of the best RPGs from the last couple years heading over to the Nintendo Switch. Yes, that's right, Disco Elysium will be heading over to the Switch. If you don't know what Disco Elysium is, it's a fantastic RPG for the PC and has an average score of 91 on Metacritic. It kind of reminds me of Planescape Torment a little bit, and yes, it is very story-driven, but I think it's going to fit really well on the Switch. I do own this game on PC myself, and I never actually finished it, so I may go back and try this once again when they port it over, and even though they didn't talk about Xbox and PlayStation here, keep in mind that last year they did reveal it would be coming to Xbox and PlayStation as well in 2020. Now we're just kind of waiting to see the exact release date for when all this is going to happen, but for anybody who hasn't played this game yet, this is a great RPG to watch out for. And yes, there are still 2 more games to talk about, and I'll try to make these next 2 real quick. NIS America has officially announced the release date for Void Terrarium. It is scheduled to release July 14th for the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4, and also it will be available in Europe on July 10th. Now, keep in mind, with everything happening in the world right now, it could end up getting delayed, but hopefully that doesn't happen. I think this game looks interesting. It's a roguelike dungeon crawler and has an interesting setting and premise, so keep an eye out for this one. And also, Saints Row the Third is getting a remaster for the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC. It's set to release on May 22nd, and I'm a little surprised to see this game get remastered, honestly. I'm also a bit surprised to not see a Switch announcement here alongside this, but maybe they would have had to downscale it a bit more than they would have liked. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Peace out.